Hey guys, this is Michael Allen for the Costa Rica Travel Channel. We're going to talk part 2 with Danny on our expat series because she's got an interesting story. I just want to let you know, most people that relocate down here usually pick one or two ways to get down here. They either ship all their stuff in a container and do that whole Miami, pick it up at Punta Arenas type thing, or possibly, I guess you can get a mover to bring it down, couldn't you?
Probably it's cheaper to ship it.
Yeah.
On a boat than it is
but
to
most people ship their stuff. Well, Danny and his wife, they decided to pack it all up and come right down through Central America, Latin America to here, and we're going to have him tell us about it, some of the things he encountered. So I'm just going to have you start from where'd you start at?
Well, I was working in Mississippi for 2 years, doing a lot of construction and home improvement and renovations, and so I had a bunch of tools, and tools are expensive down here, so if you do those types of jobs, I would recommend you bring them down or some way. I may not recommend doing it the way I did it because it just becomes, but we loaded up a big truck with a trailer and all sorts of tools and everything, and we headed out. And first thing is, if you're going to drive through Mexico, you have to...
Now wait, what did you have with you? You had your...
I had a truck.
Truck?
I had a trailer. Right. And then I had a concrete pump behind that. So I was already pulling more weight than was...
So it was like a mini little train.
Oh, it was. It was exactly like a train.
And your wife came with you on this trip, and
our
your dog.
And the dog, yeah.
All right, it's one.
Which the dog was great, actually, because crossing the border is the worst part about traveling, and there's always people who want to look and see, and if you have a nice little dog that tries to bite people, it does an amazing job of keep people away and just kind of keep people minding their own business. But first thing I didn't know is that if you're going to cross into Mexico, if you're going to be a, what they call as transmigrante, a trans-migration type of thing, you have to come through Matamoros, which is on the Mexico side. It's just below Houston, just on the edge. And you have to come through that city first, and then from there...
The only place.
It's the only place. If you crossed in anywhere else, you're going to make you go all the way back, which is what they made us do. So
you learned that one the hard way.
Yes, which we had to do anyway because of the hurricane. We wouldn't have been able to go through there anyway, but nonetheless, we ended up having to go all the way back. You have to find a company to, what they refer to as aduana, which is customs. You have to find a customs company that will prepare you a whole list with the values, and it's used
of your stuff.
Of your stuff.
All your stuff.
All your stuff. And they actually were fairly good about not going through every single thing, but I would attribute that more to luck than to actually the way it is. So you want to kind of cover all your bases and cross your T's and dot your I's and things like that. Now Mexico, I had traveled there once more.
Might be a dump. So you're actually documenting everything you have.
Yeah, everything that you're carrying. And what they told me actually is, like, for instance, I brought some extra tires for my bike, and they say if you have 5 tires and we only have written down 4 tires, they have the potential of actually taking 1 tire and say,
okay,
just put it in the list. I mean, they normally what we did was I would just kind of pay an extra little tip to the guy, because since we had a huge trailer full of stuff, if they wanted to go through everything, which would have been fine, and there was nothing illegal, but it would have taken almost a whole day to go through everything, unpack everything. So usually you just kind of give a little tip to the guys to inspect it, and they sort of get you through.
So okay, so you're coming through Mexico, and
Now Mexico, I went there. I drove through Mexico 3 years ago on a motorcycle, which was a totally different trip, and I loved it. The food was great. The people are nice. I had no issues, no complaints. But apparently, since 2005, they've stepped up security, either for the war on terror, or the war on drugs, or whatever it is.
War on terror.
War on terror, the war on drugs, whatever it is. But I mean, it's going through Mexico now is like driving through a militarized zone. I mean, there were days when...
And that was the regular. That wasn't just you just picked a bad day.
No.
That was the daily...
There was days when we would be stopped for... Every single time we drove through a checkpoint, they don't stop everybody, but they would always stop us because we were towing stuff. And it wasn't like I had an enclosed trailer. It was like an open trailer that we had like a tarp stretched over. So they stopped us everywhere, and they asked us for paperwork and asked us, do you have the papers on the dogs? Like every single thing that they could ask. Half the time they actually looked in the car and searched and looked underneath the dashboard and everything like that. They now have mobile x-ray machines that they set up just in random areas along the street. And this is not just close to the borders like they do in a lot of countries. I mean, you could be in the middle of, and Mexico's huge. It's almost the size of the United States. And you'll be in the middle of the country and they'll just set up a mobile x-ray machine.
Is it close to hassling you? Or is it, did you feel a little bit like...
It's the people were, most of the people were actually very nice. The police, and most of the time you get stopped by the military. And most of the time they're very nice. But my Spanish isn't perfect, but I speak pretty good, which also I think kind of makes things go along a bit better than if I didn't speak anything.
Would you recommend somebody coming down here to
If you don't speak Spanish, you're going to have very much of an issue, and you're probably going to spend a lot more money than I did. They gave us a route and told us that we had to follow this route, and if we go off the route, they'll ticket us. And so they give us all the little cities that you have to go through the route. Well, we entered a city where there was no sign that says that you can't pull a trailer through it. But they said, no, there was a sign that says you could bypass it, so therefore you had to take that. So they tried to stick me for $600 in fine.
Sort of extortion?
It's exactly like extortion. So I had to sit there and negotiate with the police along the side of the road and negotiate down to $200, but that's still $200 that I had to just blow on this because there's no signs or anything like that. So there's all these little ways that they're basically trying to, and that was one time. A lot of times the police says, you're not supposed to be here, and they drove us to where we had to be. So 2/3 of the people were super nice, and the other third of the people, they kind of, hey, you've got lots of stuff, so you can afford to give me a tip kind of thing, was the attitude. But most of the trip wasn't as bad as Mexico. Mexico was definitely the worst part. I mean, there was days when we would be stopped 5 times, and we only covered 200 miles that day. So, I mean, that's huge.
So you're done Mexico, so Mexico was the worst.
Mexico was the worst. Once we crossed into Guatemala, it was infinitely better. And the roads in Mexico, they basically destroyed my truck. My truck only had 30,000 miles when we left, and I had to get all new shocks and bushings and tie rods and everything. The whole thing kind of, it's like a boat now going down the road because the suspension's so bad. And they charge you for these roads, so sometimes you'll pay $25 and you'll drive and you 5 miles of nice, clean, perfect paved highway.
So you got to budget this. You got to budget this travel plan.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And
can we ask? We're talking here in late 2008. Can we give a ballpark figure?
Probably it cost with everything and border crossing fees and hotels. And granted, because I was pulling more than my truck was really set to carry, when we were going up mountains, which 2/3 of Central America is mountains, I'm only going 15 miles an hour. So it took forever, and the whole trip took me 3.5 weeks. I was expecting it to take me 10 days. So if you included all that in there, we probably paid about $3,500 in terms of travel. So in terms of shipping,
is that everything? Is that hotels, food?
Yeah, and gas. At least they subsidized gas in Mexico, so that was nice and very cheap. You know, I have a diesel, but it starts to get progressively more expensive. And Costa Rica is actually the worst, and Nicaragua is the worst in terms of gas prices. But once we crossed into Mexico, you know, you figure each day that you cross the border, you almost have to allot the day for that. You have to get there first thing in the morning, and there'll be people who run up to you trying to help you, and they're all trying to rip you off. But it actually helps that they're there in many cases. So figure that.
Did you use them?
Yeah, I use them basically in every place. And
they guide you through the.
They guide you through. They tell you where to go, and they know who to bribe and things like that. So, like for instance, like I said, if I wanted to go through customs, have them search everything, that would be an extra day. So I would rather just spend an extra $15 and just be on my way. But figure every time you have to cross the border, that's the whole day. So you have to get there first thing in the morning. You probably sleep next to the border that night before, and then the next day you cross in, and then you kind of start your day from there. Check all your prices for your exchange rates before you get to the border, because they'll try to rate you. There's guys there with money, and they try to exchange money. And there was many cases where, like, I said, well, how much is this? And he gave me a price, and the international rate was 25% more than what he's trying to get me for. And I'm like, well, I just checked the rate, and it's 25% higher. They're like, oh, okay. And then they'll do 25% higher. It's no problem. But if you don't know, if you're not educated on the things, they'll, you know, that's how they get you.
Now, did you like this option? Would you have done anything different on this?